This is the Lockpicker 1969, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this next episode of Interview with a Lockpicker. Today's guest is Reinder. Say hi.
Howdy.
So, where are you from?
I'm from the Netherlands,
Okay. Whereabouts in the Netherlands?
in Drenthe, up north.
Okay. So, how and when did you get into lockpicking? Or lock sport, I should say.
About, I think it's 5 years ago, but I really got started during the pandemic when I just saw an old hobby that I hadn't done a lot in and thought, why not start that again?
hmm So, what, during the
Um,
lockdowns or?
yeah, during the start of the lockdowns.
Okay. So, you indicated to me that you had some influences on YouTube getting into lock sport.
Yeah, I got recommended some videos from the lockpicking lawyer, and that sparked my interest. It's like, well, let's just try it. It seems like fun, and it was, and still is.
Okay. Anybody else?
Bosnian Bill as well. I found him through lockpicking lawyer, and yeah, that's
Yeah,
also started later.
they
Later
but
I found Lock Noob, but yeah,
yeah, they buddied up quite a bit.
yeah, they did.
So, you eventually got onto Reddit. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I got onto Reddit just after when I was looking into some lockpicking things, and then I found the lockpicking subreddit, which had a nice ranking sheet, belt ranking sheet on where to start or where you could start, and had just a path to follow essentially.
hmm So, you went there. You went to Reddit because you were looking for help. Was it help on
Yeah,
spit?
also that I also looked for just some help with certain locks that I just couldn't get open, which I did get open after I got said help.
Okay. And then, how did that transition over into you getting into Discord?
Well, that I believe, yeah, that's just I found a link on the Reddit page as well, and I think it was someone recommended me joining there because there were more knowledgeable people there, and well, there were, yeah, and then the people just were immediately available to help.
Okay, so you followed the belts in the list. So what what belt are you?
Uh, black belt, black belt 14th Dan at the moment,
Okay, can
very
you?
close to 15th.
Okay. Congratulations. That's a lot of hard work.
Oh
So,
yes, it is.
yeah, well, can you tell us about your journey in that hard work then?
Uh, yeah, from when I got my first belt, which was yellow or orange, I believe. It then took about a year to get my black belt, which was somewhere in February of. Let me check the year. Forgetful. February of 2021. I went the hard route for black belt as well by picking 6 black belt locks.
Okay.
The plan was to do some quests at first as well, but then I just kept picking, and next time you look, oh, I'm at 5 locks already. Yeah, might as well go for 6.
Yep. That seems like that would be the best route to take at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you got black belt first, was it that was first Dan?
Back then, it wasn't.
Okay.
Um, but I think I'm not sure on the numbers anymore. But I might have been first Dan just because of all the locks I'd already picked, or I was very close to it.
Okay. So how, talk about your journey then from having achieved black belt to now your 14th Dan.
Yeah, that's just a lot of locks. It's that's what it comes down to. You just keep picking locks. You can also do quests to get points as well, because every lock is worth points, as are quests.
Now, did you do any quests along the way?
Not yet. Keep
So
putting them off.
it's all locks.
It's
Holy
all
cow.
locks.
Holy
Yes.
cow. Okay.
I think it's about 129 locks in my dance sheet at the moment.
Wow. That's a lot of locks. A lot of black belt level locks. That's incredible.
Yes, 48 of them.
Oh god. Okay. All right. So you're working towards your 15th Dan right now, as you explained to me before we started recording. But so I was hoping you could talk a little bit about you did your first cutaway lock, and I want to talk about that. But I also would like if you could talk a bit about what else you've done around that.
Well, I got my first cutaway before I got black belt. Yeah, because I mentioned to my local smith where I was getting a key copied that I recently got a 3KS to go pick, and he says, "Hold on a second," goes to the back and emerges with a factory cutaway of an FR3KS and just
Oh,
says to me, "This is for you."
wow.
So I just got a free cutaway.
Wow.
Pretty nice.
Have you picked up any other ones along the way?
Uh, I don't think so. Yeah, no, I haven't. No, wait, I do have one other a cutaway of a Euro cylinder as a training lock.
Okay. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about your what type of involvement you've had in the community and what your feelings are about how the community has impacted your. I mean, you mentioned Discord, but I was hoping you could elaborate a little bit about your involvement with it and what stood out for you about the community.
Well, as for my involvement, I do quite a lot. I like to think because I am a moderator on the LPU Discord.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Well,
yeah,
that's a question in and of itself. So, what's that like being a moderator on the LPU Discord?
fun, but also hectic at times
Uh-huh.
when just when shit hits the fan. But largely, it's just fun seeing people just progress through the belts. Seeing them improve their skill is
Mm-hmm.
it's it's something else to see.
Okay. So, in what other ways would you say you've been involved in the community per
Uh,
se?
yeah, well, other than just moderating, as a black belt, you also just help rank locks. So you just pick locks, and as you pick locks, you also share your opinion on what belt they should be at. Um, and yeah, just in generally, you just help people with questions they have about locks.
Okay. So, okay. So we'll switch to another topic here. You have a YouTube channel. Can you talk about why you started it and what you're doing with it today?
Well, that YouTube channel it's got started because of lockpicking. Started with my green belt, where well you have to record yourself picking the lock and
Yeah.
gutting plus reassembling a lock. Well, to count for your green belts, and it yeah it's still being used for that. It's just now for Dan points, and I just added picking challenge locks to it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's largely just proof of that I did in fact pick a specific lock.
Okay. All right. What did you do for a living, by the way?
At the moment, not really anything, seeing as I'm still going to school.
Okay. And what are you studying?
The moment my school is my school situation is a bit weird, but at the moment it's largely maths and physics. Uh, just because I like those classes, they're logical. which in turn for me means they're fun and enjoyable.
So, how do you relate some of that back to lockpicking then?
I'd say that come down to tolerances and locks, which is why they're pickable just through friction and
Hmm.
something being just a little off enough for a pin to bind.
Hmm. Yeah, I would imagine physics
Yeah,
comes into play quite a bit. I'm wondering
yeah,
how much mathematics comes into play.
a lot of
Having an understanding of measurements and so forth, which is mathematics, and
yeah. Well, I mean, I have been measuring a lot of the locks I have just to find out what the rough tolerances are.
okay.
Um, yeah.
So, all right. So, beyond school and lock sport, what what other hobbies do you have or do you enjoy?
Uh, I like to bike, which is nice if you have a forest a couple of minutes away from your house. And other than that, I also like to game.
What kind of gaming?
Mostly single player narrative driven games.
Okay, like which ones?
At the moment, it's Horizon Forbidden West, which has been
Okay,
very enjoyable.
Horizon. So, what kind of game is that? I mean, I know you're talking first person, but
Yeah. Well, technically, it's third person.
okay.
It's set in quite a bit into the future where machine life forms have ravaged the Earth, and
Ah, post-apocalyptic.
in a sense, but also said machines have died out, so now that's less of a risk, but the Earth has begun healing, so to say.
Okay. All right. Okay, what other hobbies?
Uh, Not really any others. I do like to read a bit. That, yeah, that would be about it. It's been a while since I've touched a book, though. I've been busy with other things.
No. So, hold on a second. Now, before we started this interview, we had a little chat and you were talking about doing photography for locks.
Oh yes, yes.
So,
I also yeah.
so it sounds like you enjoy photography because I don't know how many other people would spend as much time as you
Right.
explained setting up the perfect shot. So,
Oh yeah,
can you talk
yeah.
about that?
Well, I it's a hobby, but I would pertain it to locksport in a sense as well because
Yeah.
it's mostly locks.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's something I initially started doing for LockWiki. Just started taking pictures of how locks, what their internals look like, and now that has expanded to the LPU Belt Explorer app as well, taking pictures for them.
Yep. Yeah, I did the same thing. I think I spent almost an entire day going through the app looking for locks that didn't have either a picture at all or and I had the lock or some that had different versions of a lock and they didn't have a picture representing a certain version, and just went through and took a whole bunch of pictures and submitted those. So that was fun actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it can be very fun.
So
I think let me check. I have quite a bit of pictures. I think I'm at like 4.5 gigabytes worth of just pictures of locks, which may not seem like much, but most of those pictures are taken with a 5 megapixel macro sensors on my phone. So it's quite a bit.
what's amazing to me is how much more advanced our cameras are on our phones than
Yeah.
some standard cameras, because I went through a whole bunch of different methods to try and capture images and do the lighting and do all kinds of stuff, and just nothing seemed to come out with the clarity that the camera on the phone did. That's just, it was one of
Yeah.
those. Uh,
I mean, a real camera does get better results, but a real camera also takes more effort and takes longer to set
yeah,
up,
yeah,
as opposed to a phone, which is just way more convenient.
yeah. No, I just found myself tripping over the tripods, and I had a tripod for the light, for the soft light. I had a tripod for the camera, and just like, oh, come on.
Yeah,
You'd set it all up perfectly, and then your foot would hit, and then you're back to square one, setting everything back up again.
yeah. I mean, I've had that happen as well, even with the phone, where just something would just I bumped the table just enough to make something that was balanced just fall. I'm like, great, now I get to do that again.
Yeah, yeah. I that was I had fun doing that. So,
That's what matters.
but I'm trying to remember. I thought I sent my pictures. I think it was MG Secure that I was getting the pictures to, so we can get them up on the app. So, but
Yeah, he's one of the maintainers.
yeah, there wasn't a picture of the Yuma 750 yet, and there was also the big discussion going on about the what are they called? The Mindy locks, the Mindy pagoda locks.
Oh right, I think I caught some of that discussion.
Yeah, yeah. No, I collect them. I love those little locks. Not so much for the lock mechanism itself, but just I like the look of them. They're a big chunky lock, and they're a lot of fun. So anyway, so can you? So what are your thoughts on challenge locks? I mean, do you make any of them? Do you like picking them?
Well, I made one for my blue belt.
Yeah.
I didn't.
The
I didn't not enjoy it, but it wasn't really my thing. But picking them, on the other hand, I do really like doing that.
okay. All
Just
right.
seeing what people come up with.
So I guess the I have two more questions before we wrap up. First one is, of all the locks you've picked, and that's a lot, which ones would you say you enjoyed the most picking them?
That's a good question. I want to answer just the Opnus MMX2 and Molus ones because they are really, really hard locks and really hard to learn as well. But once you learn them and know how they work, the open is really good.
Okay. All
So
right.
probably those two then, yeah.
Any others? So,
I do.
oh,
I well, the Asa twins as well. Those are just they give great feedback and they are all, well still being difficult, but they never seem impossible, which the Opnuses kind of do seem like.
Mission Impossible.
Uh, Probably.
All right. So, last question before we wrap up. Which locks did you hate picking?
Oh, that's an easy one. The EVA MCS. It is a hateful thing. All the feedback is purely audio,
So
and there's
you don't feel a thing when you're picking it, you just hear it?
the only thing you feel is the magnetic fields.
Oh, okay.
So audio is your only term. Is audio is the only thing in terms of feedback, and what you're listening for is the rotor, the gate of a rotor hitting the sidebar finger. But you gotta hear that in between all of the other noises the lock is making. So that's you just moving, that's the pick moving in the keyway, and you basically gotta do filtering in real time in your head.
Okay. All right. So, is there anything you'd like to say to our audience before we wrap up?
Yeah, I'd say if you're struggling on any block, just keep at it, or at least try to take a break, because I found those help immensely. Just letting your brain process all the things you've struggled with. And who knows, next time you sit down with it, you might just open it. It's been that way with a lot of locks for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just say, yeah, keep at it. And, well, don't forget to take breaks, though, too.
I know for myself, I am still trying to stay at picking those darn distatainer locks. They're just eluding me so far. But I'll get it. I'll get it one of these days.
Oh, you will. Persistence prevails.
You got it. All right. It's been fun getting to talk with you and getting to know you. We had
Yeah,
some
likewise.
pretty interesting things we talked about in the pre-interview, and I enjoyed that quite a bit.
Same.
All right, so with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening. If you are a subscriber, thank you. If you are not yet a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications and all, and hit like on this video. And thank you for listening.